If I were to be introducing it to someone who'd never seen it before, I would tell them to suspend their disbelief and that we know it looks like a junkyard. That's the whole point. Like a playground designer noticed that there was actually no children playing on these playgrounds that he'd spent so much time designing and putting work into, and instead found that children were playing in the bombed out buildings.
So part of it is that playgrounds changed all across North America. Scientists saw a rise in a lot of negative physical and mental health outcomes amongst kids, and they started to trace that back. And now that's revealing that there was a big change in play spaces. Myself, my local playground was torn out and a new type of playground was put in, and we all kind of agreed the new playground kind of sucked. And now there's this push or this movement to go back to that more traditional style of play. So we were inspired by all the research that we were seeing, by other science centers and other places that had these, and we thought, why not Calgary?
I see the philosophy of Junkyard Playground as trusting and respecting children and knowing that they're capable of so much and that their imaginations are beautiful and creative and weird. The philosophy is really to create a space where all of that play can be realized, because I think when you trust children, magic happens.
So there are really three main early child development concepts that Junkyard Playground uses. Most importantly and sort of most prominently is risky play. Having play with natural consequences is great for developing brains. It builds resilience, it builds confidence. A lot of playgrounds these days are too safe, so you think of a lot of like rounded corners or soft edges. Bumping into a corner or to an edge, although it might hurt in the moment, you actually learn something really important about your body, what they call proprioceptive awareness. That idea of awareness of your body in space. And by bumping into a sharp object, it gives you that direct environmental feedback where you learn a little bit more about the environment and also about your body. The other important concept is free play. So we act differently when we're being observed, when we know that we're being watched. We change our behavior slightly. Anyone can understand that feeling. You know, if you go and stand on a stage and you have a whole crowd watching you, you get nervous. And free play is a chance to play without thinking that you're being observed. So without your parents sort of watching over you, without creating something and looking to your parents for approval. So this is play that's just for you, free of any sort of obstructions or interruptions. And the final philosophy that we use is loose parts play. If you imagine a toy car, that car has a lot of functions within the car world. So you can drive the car, you can crash the car, you can race the car, but all of those functions are going to be car-like. A loose part might be something like a wooden block with a little hook on the end, where it can kind of be any object that you want. You can make that into a spaceship, you can make that into a boat, you can make that into really anything, but you need to stretch your imagination to do that, and you actually have to make your brain work in order to stretch the possible functions of the object to how you can play with it. And that's really, really good for your brain as well, and good for your creativity and good for your imagination. So those are the sort of the three main concepts that we're using. The more injuries that a child receives between the ages of 3 and 5, the fewer injuries they receive between the ages of 17 and 19. What we don't want are the hazards, are the major injuries that could affect you for a lot of your life. Even though the injury rate is lower in adventure playgrounds, I want the injury rate to be as low as possible to make sure that kids are just having as much fun as possible.
Junkyard Playground in its first year was really well received, and we saw kids in there taking risks that were calculated and thoughtful and made them feel empowered. We were really, I think, onto something, and that there is an appetite for these sorts of spaces and for children to be able to play in this wild, weird, interesting way.
Sometimes parents or caretakers will come to us and say like, well, couldn't I just do this in my backyard? And what I say back to them is like, yes, please. Like, don't let us be the only ones that are doing this. Like, turn your backyards into junkyards. Your kids will love it. It will be great for them. The thing we learned is that, you know, we need to share all this great information with parents about like why this play is beneficial, why this playground looks like a junkyard, and explain to them it's going to be great for their kids to come and play inside. The major theme of Summer at Spark is that it's time for kids to take the lead. So often in our society, kids aren't given a lot of agency. They're often given less agency than they can actually handle. Kids can be a lot more independent than adults typically think that they can. give them a safe environment in which to do that in. We have more areas for play, and there's different heights now. We've also let all the grass grow this year, so there'll be more hidden spaces and more delightful places that kids will be able to find and discover on their own. We're also amping up the staffing, so we know that having more play workers around the area is super helpful, and we know just generally that when visitors interact with the facilitator, they have a great day, so we've basically doubled the staffing at Junkyard Playground this year as well, and we're going to make a more refined, smooth experience for our visitors.
It might look like junk, but like trust us that there's magic happening in all of these interactions.